How's it going, YouTube? You got another TGR video coming here with some power rankings for another Masters League. We had so many coaches interested in playing this one that we had to go for a second round. And the main reason was that they wanted to do some post DLC. Basically, the DLC was announced like while we were in the middle of starting our season, and some people were like, let's do it afterwards, and some people were like, let's do it before, and we were like, let's do both. So we've got a post DLC Masters League that has just finished up drafting just like a day before, and so we're going to take a look at the teams and chat about them. One thing to comment on is that a lot of teams actually made some changes to their teams in Grace. We're not talking about any of the changes. We're going to look at teams as they were right after the Grace period and do a little chat about them and power rankings and all that kind of stuff. For those of you who have not seen any of our stuff of our TGR Masters, this is a dual format league. Teams are playing both singles and doubles, and they're going to bring the same 6 Pokemon, the same 6 sets, oh my gosh, to both doubles and a singles match. So a very interesting and unique kind of format. There is not really anything else out there quite like it, so very excited. And of course, to join me in talking about these teams, we have Incog. You want to say hi?
Yeah, hello. I'm the singles, not expert per se, but I'm the singles guy.
The guru? We can call you the singles guru. How's that sound?
Sure, it sounds nasty, but it's sure.
And then we have Miss Mag here as well. You want to say hi, Miss Mag?
And it looks like I would be the doubles guru. How y'all doing?
Sweet. Anyways, we're going to take a look at teams. One thing to point out is that we are going to look at them in draft order. So whoever had first pick is going to be the first team we take a look at. And then we'll go all the way down to the last pick of the first round. And after that, we'll take a look at what all of us decided for our power rankings. Keep in mind that once we get to the end, and I'll say this again, is that Incog based his power rankings from a singles perspective. Miss Mag has this from a doubles, and I tried to combine the two. And I'll let you all know now, this is a very exciting power rankings because, well, you'll see at the end. I don't want to give too much away, but it's pretty hype. So anyway, let's go take a look at teams. You can see here, you'll see here that the Malform Mayhem is the first team that's up, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the setup of it worked here. We had teams had to pick 3 Terra captains, and the Terra types that they used could be 2 of any type. And then we had 5 different tiers. They had 1 from each tier essentially, and then I think the 3rd tier might have been B or C or whatever. They could have 2 Pokemon from that tier. So anyway, we're going to take a look at this team, and Incog, why don't you get us started off first from what are your thoughts on this one?
Okay. Sandy, my good friend, the Malformed Mayhem, drafted an interesting team that tries to mix around singles and doubles, but for now, singles is where I'm at. Sandy, I get that you are the guy who likes to do really interesting Terra Pokemon, but when you find yourself using Calyrex or Yanmega over Ogerpon, let me know, okay? Just let me know completely. First off, that's my biggest criticism of this team, okay? Outside of that, it looks kind of good. I mean, I like the Ogerpon and the Iron Hands of the Tinglu and Florges. I mean, you got a really good Wish passer in Florges, especially I think it still has Baton Pass. And getting into things like, Gengar, if you want to take like a smaller hit, like a U-turn, just getting back that health, and things like the Tinglu and the Iron Hands is nice. Really underrated Pokemon in Noctowl, of course, and obviously Tatsugiri can definitely be interesting. I do like the Fortune Zone team for getting rid of hazards, as well as just being a general nuisance by putting up hazards. I do think Yanmega will have a good part on this team, just because Tinted Lens or Speed Boost, both abilities are really great. My issue is that you picked, basically, in my own critical opinion, 1.5 Terra Pokemon. Ogerpon is very good. I don't think I need to go over that. Over the past few days, even week now, we saw Fire Ogerpon even get banned from, Scarlet Violet, Smoke on singles. And now Tenubers, I think it's the fire one. Hearthstone? Nope. Maybe.
Hearthflame.
I have that right.
Yep.
Hearthflame, there it is.
Yep.
Well, the other ones are still maintained in OU. However, That's probably like the Pokemon you're gonna be tearing the most. I can see on Mega now that I've had a little bit more time to think. Tinted lens on this team looks really good. I mean, Terra Ground, while resisted by a few types, it definitely still hurts. And Mega definitely do a lot with that. But this team, it's kind of like the mid-ish to like mid-high. It's kind of mid. It has really good pieces, but then all the other pieces kind of hold it down. And it's pretty much what I expected out of Sandy's team.
Sounds good. Miss Mac, what are your thoughts on the team?
Actually, share the same thoughts that Incog does for the Terra Captains. Ogerpon is great. The other two are mid. And that's saying a lot when there's like technically a Calyrex over there. But I can't say I'm super impressed with just the Calyrex. It's interesting that all three of the Terra Captains' sort of original typings are all weak to fire and flying. They share like so many of the same weaknesses, but the actual team does not share too many of those weaknesses, so I find that to be quite interesting. From a doubles perspective, in terms of like strategy and synergy, like Iron Hands and Tinglu was just disgusting. Like it's just very disgustingly high levels of bulk, and then the Florges as well with the Fortress, like it's a great little core there. I think my one criticism is that you may not have enough offensive pressure outside of like literally probably like the Ogerpon pairing with like maybe like 5 of those guys on there. And I'm actually a little confused about what Noctowl's role is other than legitimately probably just setting Tailwind. But other than that, it looks pretty alright. Gengar is your only Trick Room setter when you have like Iron has Tinglu, maybe a little bit dicey. Although I guess Calyrex I think gets Trick Room as well, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alright, so yeah, it's an alright team. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think just kind of looking at it from like an overall, I think that kind of talking about Noctowl, I just don't know. I think kind of coming from what you were saying, Miss Mag, is like from a doubles perspective, like Noctowl is not a great mon. Like I've tried it before and it kind of falls flat a little bit. But I think it could potentially work here, being like a tinted lens attacker, kind of to pair with Yanmega, and so the team is able to hit a lot of different types for just like neutral and solid damage, just in a normal sense here. One thing I'm a little concerned about the team is hazards. We do have Fortress to be able to spin those hazards away, but 2 of our Terramons, our Ogerpon and our Yanmega, are both potentially weak to rocks, and then we also have the Noctowl that's also weak to rocks. And when we're looking at an Item Clause League, you gotta be a little careful about how many Pokemon you decide to bring that are weak to that. There is also the Rapid Spin from Tatsugiri, so he does have a few other options that way too. But I think that there's a lot of physical breaking power on this team, and then trying to open up for the special attackers I think is going to be pretty cool too. Very excited to see what Ogerpon does. That mon has been talked about a lot, and we're not 100% sure how good this mon is really going to be. But it's kind of cool that it has Follow Me as an option for a doubles match, and then just hits so hard in singles. So anyway, let's take a look at this next team here. We got the Milwaukee Sawsbucks, and Miss Mag, what are your thoughts on this one?
So this team I find to be quite, what's the word? It almost seems unfinished. Like there's the Lycanroc, I believe it's the midday form with the Sand Rush and no Sand Abuse, so I'm a little confused as to like what its role is there. I don't know if like Lycanroc Dusk was an option for the team, maybe not, but I think if it was, that would have been something different. I like the basic Murkrow Tailwind setter kind of go crazy mode, especially paired with the Urshifu. The Terra Captains are all relatively strong choices. A little surprised that he went with so many Dragon Terras, to be frank, but I guess he does have 3 Fairy Resists in his non-Terra Captains. But yeah, it seems just like there's like good pieces of this team, but like there's just like a bit of like synergy that is like half finished. Like Murkrow and Corviknight on the same team, and I'm not super convinced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear that. Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, Well, the doubles perspective is definitely warranted. This is a singles team. That's as best as I can put it. The one, maybe two, like there's three Pokemon, right? You got Murkrow, Urshifu, and Rillaboom. That you could be like, oh yeah, they're doubles. But really look at this team. This team is very singles adjusted. I mean, the thing that so I was looking at these teams for a bit of time now. That's a lot of dragon and water terror. What's going on over there, folks? I like the ability to Terra Rillaboom. I love the ability to Terra Donphan, but I don't know if Toxapex is the Pokemon to be tearing. Honestly, I think that it's not going to come up as much as we would like to think it will. Yeah, I understand defensive Terra and everything else. Toxapex is already defensive enough as it stands, so c'est la vie. Everything else in this team singles base looks really good. It's still kind of in that midish tier. Like, I like Clodsire and Toxapex as like two great defensive Pokemon that are totally weak to ground, being upheld by Corviknight, who isn't. I love the offensive weapons in Rillaboom plus Urshifu plus Lycanroc. And Chandelure is cool at best. Leavanny with webs is like sure, and then like Murkrow's there, I guess. Donphan's great for getting rid of hazards, so is Corviknight. Overall, once again, just like with Sandy's team, I feel like this team is a bit in that mid tier, but I would put it above Sandy's team if I was doing an overall listing, because the offensive pressure that this team has definitely outweighs what Sandy's can do. And in addition, I really like it's a bit like bulky offense, right? You get the Corviknight, Toxapex, Clodsire, and then you have the Urshifu, Rillaboom, Lycanroc, or you can bring Chandelure sometimes, or Donphan sometimes. The weakest links are definitely Murkrow, Leavanny, though.
For sure. If any of you remember our last PRs, I kind of had a lot to say about the Milwaukee Sawsbucks this time. Last time. This time I have a little bit less. I think that there are some things where there's probably too much overlap. We've talked a little bit about like the defensive options from Corviknight, Clodsire, Toxapex. I think that you probably picked two of those. And basically what I mean is I think you could pick Clodsire or you pick Toxapex. I don't think you need both of them. I personally think that you should go with Clodsire and keep the Corviknight as well. And then I think those two mons make like a really nice defensive core that you can work together. Like you get hazards options there, hazard removal as well. Like both those mons have recovery. I think that like as a defensive setup, those mons look pretty good. And then I think you just find like a different Terra Captain aside from Toxapex that is more offensive. I think this team also lacks a little bit of speed. We talked a lot about bulky offense, and this team has that. But we're looking at the highest speed mon as like Lycanroc, and that's a little scary because I think Lycanroc is like somewhere around 110, and I think in this particular generation, when you have Pokemon that are hitting up at the 130s, 140s, and quite a few of them, I think that you got to find something that's like over 115, over 120, and so the webs help that. The webs help that for sure. But then you got to bring Leavanny, which is just it's Leavanny. So and we've already seen the other team has some hazard removal as well, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I think the team also could use another special attacker, so that's kind of where I think like maybe a Toxapex trade could come into play. We switch that out, get another solid special attacker in the mix to pair up with the Chandelure, so that's not only one that's able to hit on that special side, and then find something a little bit quicker than Lycanroc, because Miss Mag pointed out that like there just isn't sand here, you know, and like that's really kind of Lycanroc's thing. So anyway, let's take a look at the next team that we got here. And this is the Texas Toadscruels. And I'll go and start off talking about this one. I think that I like the speed. Like we mentioned, the last team was kind of lacking in speed. This one is not. You know, like they have Kilowattrel at that top end. Infernape is fairly quick. Ogerpon's fairly quick. They got Cyclozar that's also quick. And honestly, so far we've seen all three teams have hazard removal as well, which is really good to see. So there's several rapid spinners. So I like that there's a lot of options for the teams that we have here. There's potentially a ground weakness that we got to be a little careful about. We got Overqwil, Infernape, and Magnezone with like quite a bit of ground weaknesses, but of course there are some resistances and some immunities with our Kilowattrel and our Landorus. So I like the pivoting that this team is able to do. I like that it's got some speed control options available to it, as well as I kind of like the options that they have for Terra Captains. I think that they can work pretty well. But Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
So there's a lot. I like it though. That's the thing. Before I get into it, Landorus, Infernape, Magnezone, Gardevoir, Overquill, you know, like great hard hitting or at least good staples of a team. Before I keep going, is Shed Tail allowed?
No Shed Tail.
So cycles are still good even without it, regardless. Let's talk about these Terra Captains. 2 solid Terra Captains. I mean, Ogerpon with the Wellspring Mask and then Cornerstone, great. I think that I really like the rock one more than anything else than the water one. Definitely better, I wouldn't say defensively, but it's still really good offensively as well. Ice and Flying Kilowattrel, I feel like you're going to have one of your stabs in ice, so really good selections there. Mischievous, I'm just going to say it. I don't know when it's going to be brought, and I hope to be surprised. It's an interesting Terra Captain, to say the least. Rocking around with Eviolite and then being weak to, and then having Levitate while also having things that are weak to ground is a very amazing strat. I give you props for that. Overall, from a singles perspective, you have really good pivoting. I know like Turn Core is really good here with Cyclizar, Landorus, and Volt switching Magnezone, getting in other threats like Overquill and definitely Gardevoir and Infernape, and also Ogerpon and Kilowattrel. Crabotable's kind of like the odd man out here, but in all honesty, I mean, that's not too bad when you have a Pokemon that can hit really hard. And I'm sure the Texas Toadscruel or QSN, I'm pretty sure this is, we'll figure it out. You know, you're throwing Assault Vest on that guy, and I mean, listen, man, he might be able to take a hit and then deliver a heavier one back. It'll be fine. I think that this team is really good. Definitely in the higher tier of like singles teams.
For sure. Spag, your thoughts on this one?
You know, I actually really like this team. For the main part is the Ogre Spring Wellspring form. I think really supports this team. There are some pretty significant heavy hitters that are weak to water, and just the fact that you are threatening the redirection into the water absorb keeps the Landorus and the Infernape with relative safety, and I can really appreciate that. I will also agree that there is a lot of offense coming out from this team, especially from a doubles perspective. They have a pretty nasty Disquake mode with the Kilowattrel and the Landorus. You don't really want to be on the receiving end of that if you are not prepared. That is for certain. I don't actually remember if Kilowattrel gets Rain Dance, but if that is the case, then you also opened up a little mini Swift Swim mode with the Overflow, which I can also appreciate. That being said, I would also, surprisingly, say that my one critique is also the Mischievous Terra Captain. It doesn't quite fit, because in most cases, I feel like you're, with this much offense, you're going to probably want to use your Terra on one of your other 2 captains, or even if you could use it on another member of the team, like the Crabominable would probably be better suited for those specific Terra types than just the Mischievous. The Mischievous really just wants to click Trick Room, and then it just kind of wants to support the team. It really won't utilize Terra too often just to get up the Trick Room, especially not when you have Follow Me on the Ogerpon and Fake Out on the Infernape. But that's my perspective. It's definitely a really solid team. I like it better than the last two.
For sure. Let's go and take a look at the next one then. You got the LA Infernapes and Incog. Why don't you guys start us off on this one?
Oh boy, what a fun team, and a very just a gross team. Like, oh my god. So listen, man, I get it. You know, you're just looking to have a good time, but man. All right, let's talk about it. We are all talking about leading up to the DLC coming out. Gliscor is coming back and getting, obviously, Terra. This is the fear that I had in mind. But seriously, great. I would say good Terras, right? I like the Gliscor, Waterfire, good Terras overall. I think that maybe I just don't like Iron Thorns. I've tried using it. I've tried making it work. It's not my favorite, but fun Terras. I mean, you get rid of that 4 times weakness to damn ground, and that's really cool by just being electric and then flying. I mean, you get rid of it entirely. Appleton, great Terra. Love them. Definitely one of the few terrors where I'm like, you know what, that could work out in certain situations. But the rest of this team, good lord. I mean, Chen Pao, Volcanion, Goodra, Screamtail, Ambipom. We're talking crazy Pokemon right here. Maybe I've never really enjoyed Charizard, but on this team, I mean, as long as you have the right removal, then yeah, it could definitely work. I mean, Haunter, it's cool, I guess, but like I said, that word that I just whispered, removal. There's what am I looking at here? I think no, actually, I don't think Gliscor gets defog anymore, which is actually concerning. Yeah, it does not. And Volcanion doesn't get defog at all anymore, which is again concerning. You don't have any removal. This team suffers in that regard. You don't have spin, which a lot of teams would like to have most of the time. And that's the big thing about singles. Removal. And that's why when Pokemon took away a lot of the removal options from a lot of mons, hey man, your team definitely suffers the most from that change. But because the team hits so hard with obviously, Ambipom being as offensive as is, combined with Qianpao, combined with Volcanion and Gliscor and the like, this team could definitely stop people from putting up hazards, or from a practical standpoint, just will overperform and do really well overall. And I like it a lot, especially when you have Wish passing with Screamtail. Oh my god. This is one of them teams right here, man. This is one of them you got to look out for.
Miss Mag, what are your thoughts on this one?
No, I thought on this team, this is a great Screamtail team. It's just a wonderful Screamtail team. This is a team that, Screamtail gets to, click funny moves like disable Encore Thunderwave, and then the rest of this team gets to just sit there and start chipping away at stuff. Either with a lot of force, like the Qianpao, or just, slowly getting the Appleton rolling, getting the Gliscor going, all that kind of stuff. What I find so interesting about this team in particular is that normally when I'm used to seeing Qianpao cops from a doubles perspective, you see really most of the teams tend to lead physical, almost outright, with very few special attackers. I like this one. It's a lot more balanced. Yeah, there's let's just say really two dominant physical. Well, actually no, there's three, because Ambipom with Fake Out Last Resort can be a absolute pain if that's allowed to sustain under Sword and Bruin. But the Gliscor and the Iron Thorns will definitely appreciate the defense drops, which allows you to kind of run them a little bit more on the bulkier side. And I'm gonna just give up one little dice point for Sosa, but physical Charizard is a thing. But outside of that, from a doubles perspective, this team just really benefits, I think, from fast screens. It's a very bulky offense team, if I could really say that practically. They don't really have too much trouble in the speed control department either. They have some really good stuff at the fast end. They have two, in my opinion, very decent to good Trick Room setters, and they have some good pieces that function well in the Trick Room. Overall, pretty good team.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. I think most of what we've been talking about is praising this team. I think the only thing that I would probably add in here is a potential change to consider. I do see the combination of Sunny Day with Charizard, but I just look at this team and if I need a fire type, I'm bringing Volcanion. I don't think that Charizard's really that necessary, and so I think I would probably look for a different mon there. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head which typing is missing. Maybe Fighting? I think Fighting might be missing. So it might be worthwhile to grab a fighting type there in that pick. But we've talked about how strong this team is. Their tower captains look awesome with a lot of different strong options here. So anyway, let's go and take a look at the next team we have here. And Miss Mag, why don't you get us start us off here? Oh, sorry, before actually you do that, there was a pick that was made that wasn't the correct tier. So you can see that there's a open slot on the Toronto Tinkatinks. They're going to fix that in Grace. In fact, it's already happened at the time of recording. So we're just going to talk about the team right after right before transactions started, essentially. So anyway, go ahead, Miss Mag.
I mean, even with only 9 months, this team's double synergy is pretty out the window. It's a Sun team through and through. With the Ninetales, with the Victreebel's a very interesting both Terra Captain and Chlorophyll Sun Sweeper. I cannot wait to see that actually put in some work. And then you have the Great Tusk and the Fluttermane, who are two of the most oppressive, I believe, Paradox Pokemon who benefit from the sun on either end. And let's not forget Cleavor down in the corner, setting up rocks with every stone axe that it throws. I think that's the name of its signature move. But of course, without the missing slot, there is a little bit of a gap in terms of like what the team can do. For example, the Alolan Raichu is a little bit lonely down there with just providing fake out support and other kinds of electrical offense, but effectively having no ability since there is nothing on this team that actually can use electric terrain other than itself. I love the other two Terra Captains. I won't shy away from them. The Hydreigon's like one of the most disgusting mons in the game thanks to being able to change its type. And Regidrago is a mon that has continued to impress me in recent times. I was not necessarily the biggest believer at first because like Terra Fairy, Terra Steel, but it got Earth Power. And yeah, that kind of makes a difference. So the Terra Steel is not super safe, and then it goes Terra Steel to use Terra Blast on the Terra Fairies and the regular fairies. Yeah, this is a solid team through and through. I just can't wait to see what that missing piece actually ends up being, because that can make or break some of these critiques.
Incog, thoughts?
Make or break, you say? Allow me to rebuttal. Listen here, Brett. Good job. Listen, in all seriousness, this is a really good team. I'm not gonna lie to you. Victory Bell's kind of silly as a Terra Captain, but that's okay. It fits because you have the Sun, you have the Protos, you got the Hydreigon, you got the Regidrago, you got this team is so perfect that one more piece, even if it's mid at best, doesn't ruin it for me. This team is so damn good. I'm very high on this team if you can't tell already. Let's go over it, shall we? Hydreigon's Terras are fantastic. I mean, Fire and Poison, I do really like them a lot. I think if you can get off a berry type set, then you get Belch off with Hydreigon. That could be really elite work. Fire is pretty cool. In the sun, you're landing these Fire Blasts or even just Flamethrowers. A lot of Pokemon aren't going to want to take those hits naturally. I've always been high on Regidrago. I've never believed that it could actually sweep me until it did. Shout out to you, Ape Raider. And you know what? Good Pokemon right there, man. The addition of getting Earth Power this generation, I'm pretty sure, is really good. Dragon and Steel are great Terra types. I mean, Dragon to make sure that your Dragon energies are more felt, and Steel to ward off many fairies. As I said, Victory Bell is kind of silly. I haven't heard of Victory Bell's name in such a long time, so excuse my French, but holy fuck. This Pokemon is really just stupid. It got Leech Life. It also got Lunge, which is really funny. It has Strength Sap, has always had it since its introduction of Strength Sap, rather. And definitely after an SD, you're looking at this Pokemon kind of funny, like, oh god, it's in the sun and can hurt me. Outside of that, Flutterbane, great Tusk, and Ninetales, great trio right there. Slowking providing slow momentum if you need it with chilling reception, but even then, just a really good pivot. Cleaver providing easy rocks access, and Alolan Raichu, while it's not the greatest Pokemon of all time, definitely still gives you a really good speed tier at 350, which is 110. Overall, team's really good. I think the only real criticism I can give it is you're definitely missing a type. And I think that type is water. So if the free agency period, the grace period helps you, or not water, you have a Slowking. What am I saying? What's the type? Steel. Steel's the one that you're missing, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Outside of that, I mean, if you get a really dominant Steel type, you get a great Fairy, Steel Dragon Core. Amazing. Yes, you have Terra Regidrago, I get it, but let's not talk about that. Give me a solid Steel type, and we can keep talking about how perfect this team is. But overall, there are obviously other smaller issues, but, it's cool.
Damn, there is so much love for this team. I am not as high on this team as my other the other PR people here. I just think that it's I feel like so much of the conversation that we were having is like, oh, when there's sun up, this team looks amazing. Well, my concern is that there are several teams that like have anti-weather options. Excuse me. So like there are other teams that are running their own weather. There are several teams that have Cloud9 Pokemon, for example. And so if sun is not up, I think this team looks kind of mid. It doesn't really look that amazing. And if Ninetales is that mon that needs to keep setting sun for you, if we're talking about singles particularly, like a lot of times we're going to get hazards up, and so like that mon needs to have the boots, or we need to clear them with Great Tusk. which for sure it can be that mon. Like, there's no other mon here that really wants to have Futsa on it, but I don't know. I think that, like, if Ninetales has to be that mon that continually has to set weather for you, then I think the team could eventually struggle a little bit. And without the Sun synergies, the team is good. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a bad team at all, but we're talking about double dragons out there. So, like, there's a lot of option to just, like, Dazzling Gleam against this team. And if they don't Terra, then, like, how many resists do you really have to that? Is a concern, in my opinion. So the steel type is definitely something I think you need to find a spot for. And of course, filling in that last mon is definitely going to help out. So I don't know. Those are just my general thoughts on the team. I think that there's some transactions that need to be done to kind of help it out. So anyway, let's go and take a look at our next team here, the Atlanta Talonflames. And Incog, why don't you start this one off?
Yo, Jay, you my dog, man. What's going on here? Listen, man, really good team. Okay, so I'm gonna just break it down here. I love Chiyu. I love Galarian Moltres. I love Gothit. Love is a strong word. Gothitelle is cool. Empoleon's great. Brambleghast. Electros is cool. Stantler, Palisand, and the Galarian Articuno, and then there's Dusclops. This team looks like it's more shifted towards doubles, which Miss Mag will get into later. I think that this team, from a singles perspective, is good enough. I think that you have really good special threats, but where are you physically? You know what I mean? You don't have the greatest physical Pokemon. I mean, yeah, Empoleon can be physical, but you know, we just had the generational shift where it went from having defined to having now competitive. So now you're basically probably gonna be using mostly special, if I'm gonna be honest. Brambleghast is cool, Electros is cool, but they're not dominant physical threats. Your team is mostly specially offensive, and I mean, look at your Terra types as well. Dark and Poison on Moltres, you're definitely gonna see mostly special Terra Blast. Same thing with Galarian Articuno with Psychic and Ground. And even with Palisand, that is a special Pokemon and a half. So realistically, while I do like this team, it's missing a really good physical threat, as well as while your removal is really, you know, fine with just having Brambleghast. I think, I don't think they gave the birds defog on this. No, they did not. So realistically, I think you got Brambleghast, and I think that Empoleon did not keep defog. Oh Lord. So your one hazard remover is Brambleghast, and in singles it's kind of bad just to have one remover. If not, you should probably have at least two. Even 3 is better than having 2 because it's a higher number, and of course it's better. But the main problem here is that there's not a whole lot going on physically, and definitely in this kind of singles metagame, you definitely want to have a mixture of physical and special attackers. Removal's definitely sparse, and while you can put up hazards, there's not a whole lot of hazards going up, I'm pretty sure. If my general correction, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you have spikes on Brambleghast and then rocks on Palisand.
That sounds like, right, yeah.
It's like it's a weaker team, right? It's not bad, but it's not good. It's just okay, which happens, you know what I mean? That's how draft goes, but that's where this team is landing for me.
Yeah, I have a similar take on this. I think that there's too much type overlap here. Like, we have double darks, I think there's double psychics, we have like triple ghost. Like, there's too much of the same thing happening with this team, and I think that there needs to be some transactions made to kind of rectify that. I think the other part that I'll add on here is that, like, we have multiple Pokemon that are weak to rocks, 2 of them being Terra Captains, and so, like, the hazard removal is probably something that is going to need to be brought in a fairly regularly, but then it's Brambleghast doing that, and like that mon really, like, Miss Mag will talk more about this, but like this mon is really like a Wind Rider, you know, Tailwind beatdown mon, and like it I think it's gonna have a hard time kind of filling that role on this team, just because like the Tailwind isn't that quick, and there's a lot of Pokemon on this team that are really slow. I think it actually might cap out at like Chiyu being the fastest mon, which is just not a great place to be. So in my opinion, a lot of transactions need to happen here. We need physical threats, we need faster Pokemon, we need type diversity. Like, there's too many times where you can just bring one option, like just bring ghost attacks and you'll hit a ton of stuff on this team. You know, you're hitting 5 Pokemon for super effective damage, just straight up. And then consider changing Terra Captains around too. You know, like, your Terra Captains don't have to be one that's the same typing and one that's different. You could totally switch it up and like have 2 that are different typings. And then you get a little bit of like type diversity. But in the end, I think that like some transactions need to happen here to help round this team out a little bit. Miss Mag, what are your thoughts on this team from a doubles perspective, though?
Well, funny you should ask. I don't think I've ever seen a comp that is simultaneously weak to Snarl and also offers Beads of Ruin at the same time. And I'm gonna be honest, 2 competitive mods will not stop me from throwing Snarl to this team. I don't even care. Take your +1 special attack boost. I'll just keep snarling you down. Because that is what I see when I look at this team. And Empoleon getting that switch from Defiant to competitive does not dissuade me from clicking anything that weakens special attackers in the slightest, due to the fact that there is literally next to no physical offense coming from this team. But I have a solution. Draft Galarian Zapdos and finish your trio at the top. Because that is also something that I found disappointing, is that I see Galarian Moltres, Galarian Articuno, and I don't see Galarian Zapdos. That makes me sad. Because all 3 of them, you might as well just have gone the full Monty, and you would have had a physical offensive threat on this team, and Defiant. So then I would have had to think twice about spamming Snarl into this team. But on top of what's really been said, like, there is really too much. There's too much type similarity, and there's also too much role similarity. Like, not for nothing, this team has 4 Trick Room centers. It has 2 Tailwind centers that are, as we've said, both middling speed, and this team's top end speed is literally 100 with the GU, which means you are almost obligated to run Scarf every single week if you want to beat out faster teams. Granted, you could just set Trick Room in their face, but since 3 of your Trick Room centers all share a weakness to dark moves, barring the Gardecuno actually using a Terra, that might be a little problematic. Now, I will say that I think my favorite 3 parts of this team are Gothitelle, Chi-Yu, and Galarian Moltres. I think those 3 alone carry such a powerful offensive weight in doubles because you can leverage trapping, and the one type that you can't trap in is Ghost, and those are 2 very strong dark types with spread moves to match that will pretty much decimate any Ghost types across the way. But I will agree, quite a few transactions I think need to happen for this team to be more successful, in my opinion.
Okay, let's go and take a look at our next team here. It's the Middle Village Pidoves. And I'll go and start chat about this team a little bit. I think this team has quite a bit of variety. Like, they have some good setup threats, they have some good defensive Pokemon, they have some like good offense immediately. I think maybe one thing I'm potentially concerned about as I'm looking at this a little bit more is like potentially physical offense. We have quite a bit of special offense between the Hisuian Zoroark, the Zapdos, the Manaphy. Manaphy being able to Tail Glow is amazing, and then it also has the option of Take Heart, which is a really nice move that's like a Calm Mind plus remove status, which is pretty cool. I think that Grimmsnarl is a nice option for this team as well. Like, it could use some screens to help Manaphy set up and then go absolutely nuts. 4 screens also helps Revavroom get a shift gear off, which I think that makes the team pretty scary. But I think in a general sense, like, maybe a little bit more in the way of physical offense would help the team. I will say that, like, the large amount of special offense is really nice to pair with Wo-Chien, since Wo-Chien is going to reduce that physical damage output, and so your special attackers can really shine. So I think that in a general sense, like, this team has a good variety. They have some options available for in terms of switch-ins that are really bulky and able to come in and take hits very well. And yeah, I don't know. I think that there's some good options for the team. The trapping is nice on Dugtrio as well. Both singles and doubles, it's nice to just hold some Pokemon in, and so you know exactly what you're gonna have to deal with. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this team, Miss Mag?
I think it's a cool team from a doubles perspective. Honestly, this easily would have made my top 3 if it wasn't for just a wee bit of, I think, the struggle of the physical offense. I will agree, but also there was just like a wee bit of role overlap. Like, the Wo-Chien and the Amoonguss was a little much for me. Just a little. But I really love this team's Terra Captains. I think Grimmsnarl, Room, and Macargo really capitalizing on those bonds with two of them with the 4x weaknesses and making them Terra Captains can be very powerful, as we've learned in this Gen 9 meta. I'm also a huge Hisui and Zorik fan, so like almost any team that has that on it will get some good praise from me. Manaphy being able to tag low is big, especially with the redirection option from the Amoonguss. Same thing with the Zapdos being able to set up Tailwind. And then Grimmsnarl is just a great Swiss Army knife of things that it can do. Fake Out, Parting Shot, Dual Screens, Thunder Wave. Some good stuff here, but like again, there's like some pieces I don't think could. I think some pieces could be further optimized, and I do think one more strong physical attacker would make this team a little bit more fearsome.
What are your thoughts, Incog?
All right. Well, hey man, Grimmsnarl, not Grimmsnarl. Revivroom got high horsepower. I'm pretty sure with the DLC movement, or it got something good.
Oh, did
something
it?
really good.
That's exciting.
It got a ground move or something, and I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me, yeah, he got high horsepower? You mean to tell me he didn't have that before? Listen, that's a great addition to a Pokemon that can shift gear and now actually have the coverage to beat your team senses. I mean, Poison and Steel is great, but now ground, and in addition, you have those Terras. Listen, man, this is a dynamic Pokemon right here. Now let's talk about the team in more detail. I think that the Terra Captains are interesting, though. I think that Grimmsnarl maintaining just, both its typings for its Terras is more than enough to get you by. I think that Revivroom getting water and flying is great. Macargo is an interesting one. I mean, I like Macargo as much as the next guy. I don't know what it's going to provide to this team, but it's cool. In total, though, I mean, with the new move that Manaphy got in Take Heart, which removes status and as well gives you a Calm Mind boost, that's going to be hard to beat on most teams. In addition to having good pivoting with Zapdos and then also Parting Shot on both Grimmsnarl and the Revivroom, you can get in the Manaphy really easily. Amoonguss is a great defensive piece, Zorik's a great special attacker, and as well Wo-Chien can definitely just be a wall or definitely still a good mixed attacker depending on what you want to do. Dugtrio, assuming Arena Trap, can definitely trap many Pokemon and make sure that it can free up a slot so that, you can sweep the Manaphy or Zapdos. Giraffe is cool, though. Now, where am I leading this to? Definitely needs a bigger physical attacker. Team definitely lacks one better physical attacker. I know that Revivroom's great for what it's worth, and you can definitely run Grimmsnarl physically. You can definitely run Wo-Chien physically, and even Zora physically, or Dugtrio in general. But here's the thing. I need something that I can be scared of. I'm not too scared of, like, Grimmsnarl Revivroom physically. And I'm definitely not scared of Zoroark or Wo-Chien physically. My main problem as well is that there's hold on, let me check the time. No removal. So that's a big deal. Yes, you do have rocks and you do get up screens and everything else, this, that, the third. And I think Dugtrio might have spikes, or one of these Pokemon has spikes. I don't remember which one. That's cool and all, but removal when it comes to singles is very important, especially this generation, and especially in a league where you have item claws. You only get one of them with heavy duty boots, and if it's not going to Zapdos, I don't know who's getting it. So pretty good team, mid overall, but definitely a really threatening team if you don't account for the fact that it doesn't have removal.
Okay, let's go and take a look at our next one here. We got the Midland Marowaks, and Ms. Bag, what are your thoughts on this team?
Okay, from a doubles perspective, this team's cracked out. Like, absolutely. So much really solid synergy. If you don't know anything about Iron Valiant, that mon is basically a Swiss Army knife. It can run any set that you need it to, basically, because of its extremely deep move pool. And on top of that, it gets to enjoy a very nice speed tier of, I believe, base 116 and a booster energy on top of that. So have fun. Yeah, just have fun. And then you also have the Prankster Thunderous, which you have to concern yourself with, because that gets to enjoy going first and offering various levels of speed control and support, such as Leer for a very fast Iron Valiant. And then you've got the little mini raid mode with the Politoed and the Golduck. I'll admit, Golduck's not the most fiercest rain sweeper, this side of the Mississippi, but it puts in the work. Like, you still have to respect the fact that it's going to be hitting Hydro Pumps or Terra Water, Terra Blasts, craziness under rain. And then let's take a look at the Terra Captains. Blood Moon Ursaluna it's a mon that is been drawing a lot of discussion as far as like myself and other people in other draft servers. Like people are not super convinced as to like where it's going to perform. So I'm like really excited to see it perform. And he's got a really good trick room starter to pair with it with the bronze on. So I really think this team is just overall like super solid. Like Dragaldi Bronzong was already a really obnoxious pairing back in Gen 8 when we didn't have Terra to influence it with like weakness policy sets. But yeah, I think Dunn drafted a pretty solid team overall for doubles at least.
Incog, thoughts?
Well, we got to the part of the episode where I have to say, hey, look, guys, Golduck's here. How nice. Golduck's not doing anything on this team. Listen, man, I like this team a lot. Here's the thing, though. So we have the Terra Captains in Ursaluna, Blood Moon, and I mean, you already know how. If you don't know how I feel about Trick Room is the favorite mode of mine ever since I started playing VGC when it first came out back in DPP. Great mode overall. Good stuff right there. So Blood Moon and Bronzong, certified hood classics. I don't put much stock in the Pyroar, but it could be cool. I don't know. It could be. Raggy. Like, I don't know. Iron Valiant, Thunderous, Zaru, Politoed, great mons overall. Dragalge is great. Alolam's okay, and so is Golduck. Here's where things get dicey. Now, folks, we're going to say it one more time with me. Where's the removal? That's right. You have hazards, though, with T-Spikes and Rocks, and probably Spikes on something on here, which is amazing. I think that's good. There's no rapid spin. There's no default. There's nothing. Where is it? And I get it in this format that it becomes a little bit harder to account for everything. But once again, you're building for singles and doubles, and you want to make sure you at least have some sort of removal. At least one Pokemon, at minimum one, to make a really good, like, decent, good team. 3. And they have to account for the doubles aspects, which that's not my part, is it? So Iron Valiant, Thunderous, Zarude, Politoed, great mons overall. I think that you have really good offensive pressure. Being able to U-turn with Thunderous or Volt Switch rather, and then U-turn with Zarude, or even flip turn with Dragalge into good certified threats like the Iron Valiant, or just switching into the Zarude or Thunderous, as mentioned earlier, would be really good. Bronzong and Ursaluna being able to bring that Trick Room aspect is really decent, as well as being bulkier Pokemon that can definitely still hammer home a lot of damage while maintaining their bulky status. I want to see how well this team can do overall. I think Rain is cool. You don't really need it, but you took Politoed in case, somebody else wanted to run Rain, because we do have one team that does. And you have the Cloud9 in the Golduck, which probably won't matter, but it'll make a difference one week, and that's the important part. As long as it can make a difference once, it's probably going to be fine. Overall, this team's good. I think the Terra types are great as well. Dragon fighting on Bronzong is insane work. I love to see Terra Dragon, Terra Blast. That'd be dope. Ursaluna's going to be good with its Terra types. Pyroar's cool, I guess. I guess the main thing with this team is like overall, it's very good mixed wise. There's no removal though, and you know me, like I suffer with no removal, so I'm going to impose that on other people, because whenever people talk about teams I've made, they're like, where's the removal? Where did it go? And that's the thing, this team doesn't have it either. And as long as you don't have removal, singles is going to be hell, because you definitely have to account for a lot of hazards going up.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the team has a good mixture of offensive pressure. Like we got some good like fast physical attackers, we have some fast special attackers, we have some slow physical, we have some slow special, and so I like that there's a good mixture on this team to support like in and out of Trick Room. Trick Room isn't so amazing in singles, you can definitely run it, but it's nice that you have Bronzong as a mon that can set it and then also abuse it in Trick Room, and so I like that that's an option for the team, and then being able to set it for like Blood Moon and Blood Moon Ursaluna in those doubles matches is really nice. Definitely the removal is a good point. That's not something I noticed when I first looked at this team, so potentially something to consider. I'm not quite sure where you're going to find it or how you'll fit it in, but in general sense that it is nice to have that as an option, and it's a good point that Incog had that that's not here. So potentially something to consider. But I like that there's the options for speed. Like I think this team does well in fast, it does well in slow. It's got a good mix of options. And I think that Iron Valiant is going to be really nice on this team. Because you look at some of the other offensive threats, like you got special offense from Blood Moon or Selena, as well as Drakeology, and then you got physical offense from Ceruledge, and then potentially like a body pressing Bronzong, and I think that's going to open things up for Iron Valiant to be a pretty solid mod for the team. So yeah, excited to see what this one's able to do. And next up, we have the Sacramento Sandslash. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear what y'all have to say about my team. Miss Mac, why don't you guys start us off?
Broken. Your team's broken. End of story. Done. Next. But I mean, in all seriousness, you have probably what I would say is the most obnoxious fire, water, grass core. It is literally only held back by like the fact that your fire type is Flareon. And I am soft on the evolutions this gen because they got huge move pool buffs, but Flareon is still on the weaker end of things. Like a lot of its move pool buffs are special, and it is predominantly a physical attacker. But Palafin and Sinistra is just stupid. And I've been watching Sinistra on the actual circuit using that mod, and that was just cracked out levels of good. And then you're like adding hospitality and support boosting to like come on like Palafin, which would love coming in and out of the field and getting a free 25% every time Sinistra decides it wants to pop up. But that's just the first three. You have a really nice disc break mode. I really like the Iron Treads and the I'm forgetting that mod's name real quick. What's the flying? What is it? I forgot already. Yes, the Vigavolt. Thank you. It's been a while since I've said that name. I like the Vigavolt and the Iron Treads little Disquake mode. I like the Weavile. I'm not normally a fan of that mod, but on this team, like fast fake out is so useful just to get some of your bulkier stuff going. Definitely get the Altaria pick, and get some Tailwind, get some Cloud9 utility, all that. But yeah, I think overall it's a solid team. And then Okie Doki's just like another one of those like almost like Palafin where like you can set up and just kind of sit there and like get some Drain Punch recovery like back, and that just constitutes a problem when you still again have the Sinistra redirecting attacks away from the set of threats, switching in and out to give it 25% more healing. Like it's a pretty well designed team from a Devil's perspective, in my opinion.
Incock, thoughts?
Well, I think there's a guy who made this team, and he made it very interestingly. I don't know if I think he tried to ping me. Maybe he didn't, to see what this team was actually doing here. Because listen here, Pat. Listen. From a singles perspective, you got them webs on the Vikavolt. You got the Palafin, the Ogie Dogie. You got the Iron Treads and the Weavile. You know, you got a really great team going on here. And the thing about this team that I enjoy is the fact that there's a lot of interesting monsters that I haven't seen do anything yet. You know, Okidogi and Sinistra, I think that's the name of it. Mm-hmm. Sinistra, I haven't seen them do anything outside of a few VGC theaters here and there. I don't see them mostly in singles, out of the fact that I'm always busy. Wink, wink. And the problem here is that I think that the team, while it doesn't overlap on typings, and I do like the Terra Captains and everything else, like I feel like this team understandably becomes a 7-mon team. I don't see cause to bring Flareon or Altaria besides, you know, maybe in a doubles format. If you have Cloud9 Altaria, maybe Flareon will do something, I guess. And like Weirdeer, I don't believe those 3 Pokemon are ever really coming. Maybe they're good, interesting Pokemon to some people out there in the comments. You let me know. But like, you know, Diance's coming as a great defensive check and puts up rocks and everything else, and definitely has great Terras. Vikavolt's great because holy moly, it's a Vikavolt again. Puts up sticky webs and is a great slow pivoter. Palafin's great. I mean, look at him. Exactly. Okidogi and Iron Treads, I mean, they basically can cover for each other in some regards outside of a earthquake mishap. And I mean, Weavile, I think it got back knockoff.
It did.
I think it did, yeah. See, right before, for funny reference, hee hee ha ha moment, there is a Pokemon known as Sneasel that I picked up one time and made it, you know, put it on my team before it got back knockoff. So this is very funny that now I get to talk about someone else having a Pokemon that wouldn't have had knockoff had God not been so nice to him. regardless, Weavel's good. Getting back knockoff is amazing. It definitely needed it. It was broke without it. Like as in it didn't have any money. If you don't get that. And then Sinistra, I mean, Strength Tap's great. Machigacha is fantastic. I mean, fishing for burns is going to be good as well as getting back HP. But outside of that, I mean, this team has what you call the essentials, right? Hazards and rocks and webs, and I think maybe somebody here gets spikes. Couldn't tell you. Great offensive physical presence. Good enough special presence. I mean, you have Diancie, you have the Vikable, you have the Sinistra, obviously. They can each be special. And then you have removal. And I'm pretty sure it's just Iron Shred, so you could use another remover unless Altaria gets default, which, I mean, if it does, you guys can let me know because I wouldn't know that information. It does, actually. Holy moly. So, you know, has all the essentials. It's a good middling team. Good middling team there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that a lot of things that have been shared are fairly accurate and things that I agree with. Something that wasn't brought up that I would want to point out is that if I were to redo this draft again, I would consider looking for Terra Captains that are faster. I ended up with some slower Terra Captains here, and so I like them. I like all the Terra Captains that I have, but I think that it would have been nice to have something that was a little bit quicker and able to put on some more offensive pressure and potentially look to sweep. I think that the Terra Captains I have are a little more on the defensive side of things, which isn't bad, but I think that I didn't give myself enough options in that regard. So anyway, let's go and take a look at our next team here. And we have the Charlotte Chandelures. And I'll go and chat about this team to start off with here. I think this team has a lot of different options and capability from both singles and doubles. Like, we have a ton of Pokemon that have recovery on their own. We have Wish Passing with Vaporeon. So I like that there's a ton of different options here. It's got webs as well. There's a good like mix of Mons that are able to do a lot of damage, some nice speeds, some nice speed control to go from a fast or slow perspective here. And yeah, I think I really like the team and how it's put together. I'm really excited to see how Clefable does. This is one of the coaches that we have that does record their matches from time to time. I'm not sure if they'll record this league, but I'd be really excited to see how they decide to use Clefable, because in a singles perspective, it's often like Calm Minesweeper or like defensive check, whereas in doubles, this mon is often thought of as like a follow me bot. So I'm excited to see what they decide to do. Maybe they can find a way to tech follow me on, as well as get that like Calm Mind sweeping potential from Clefable. So that's a mon in particular on this team that I'm pretty excited to see how it does. Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
Good old Shadow Stitch. Can we get a good old golf clap going? There he is. Yeah. Look at this guy. Look at this guy drafting a good single. We'll see. Who would have guessed? Listen, I like this team a lot. I think that, you know, you're using Electrode no Hisuian and you're giving it its grass typing with the Terra. It's very funny. Ice is really good. I think I would have probably gone with Flying maybe in that regard, just because like I just don't think Electrode wants to be by maybe ground attack. You know what I mean? And yeah, it'll be not very effective with the grass and the Audi. Whatever, man. I get that. This team feels with its Terrans is a little bit more oriented towards doubles, but that's not my range. I think that in the singles perspective, Roaring Moon into Clefable with Shaman is fucking great. With Salazzle Vaporeon, you have great mons there as well. Dusknoir is great. Got Poltergeist, and it's here. It's going to get you. And with Webs from Masquerain, you have a really dope team. I think not having removal is an interesting thing to do here, but you have Magic Bounce, I believe, on Hatterene, which is dope. You know, that's pretty good stuff there. You know, those are pretty good bananas. But no, removal will definitely bite you in the butt, but I think it doesn't really matter. Magic Guard on something like Clefable. Toxic Spikes being put up. Oh yeah, I have a Salazzle that can absorb them and a Hariyama that doesn't care. Like, that's pretty good. I think Rocks will definitely be a bit impactful, but not as impactful as you do have great Wish passing from something like the Clefable Wish Baton Pass, and obviously with Vaporeon with Wish. I think Vaporeon also got back Flip Turn, if I don't recall that correct. It did, so you have that as well. Dusknoir is a great physical threat. Roaring Moon's a great physical threat. You can also make Clefable into a great special threat with Magic Guard Life Orb. In addition, you also have Shaman, which I listen, I don't know who is around for Shaman's prowess, but Shaman's a really good base 100 mon overall, and it's definitely disgusting when it can be. With not Serene Grace, that's Shaman Sky. Natural Cure is really good just because you get rid of your status. It doesn't matter what happens. You just get rid of it as soon as you switch out. It can be a bulky grass type. I maybe would have preferred this if it was allowed to be a Terra Captain. I feel like that would have definitely made it better defensively, but as an offensive player, it's still good. I think overall this team, without removal, it's definitely going to be an interesting sight to see, but it doesn't seem like this team will struggle as much as other teams may, because their offensive threats being a Terra Normal or Steel Hariyama and a Roaring Moon and a Clefable and a Shaman and a Salaz. I think you get the point. Team's really good. Overall, I think that you can definitely see where it could go some weeks, but it's definitely going to be a surprising team nonetheless.
For sure. Miss Mag, what are your thoughts on this one?
This team has one of my favorite pairings from way back in the day when I started playing doubles, was like in Gen 3. So I remember I used to mess my friends up a lot with just Clefable and Dusclops. While this one does not have Dusclops on it, I have always loved the pairing of Clefable and Dusknoir and anything in that family. I think it is great. It has only been improved and added by the fact that Clefable is now not a normal type anymore, but a fairy type. But Dusknoir getting first, that's just a very classic fake out Trick Room setup lead. Follow me Trick Room setup lead. But the fact that Dusknoir also gets like offensive presence means that it could easily just not set up Trick. I don't know what boosting moves it gets, like if it gets any like setup moves like Sword Dance or anything crazy like that, but like it's still got like base, I believe 100 attack or maybe 110. So I think that's a good pairing. Like the TR mode is so solid. And then you have the Roaring Moon. Booster energy allows it to be very flexible in either hitting harder or moving faster, which is good tailwind support for some of these slower offensive threats. I would say the one gripe I have about this team is I wish it had a real steel type on it. I think a solid steel type could better enhance this team instead of having to rely on the Terra Steel Hariyama. But other than that, I don't really have too many complaints about this team. Masquerade's definitely probably one of my favorite lower tier picks, I would definitely say. Mon could do a lot of things with its wide move pool.
For sure. Let's take a look at this next team here. We got the Gothenburg Spielers and Incog. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh man, Sven, you know what? Same thing with you, buddy. Same thing with you, man. You already know how we get down here, man. Listen, man. I got to look at these tier lists, because we're mods. When I saw Darkrai was allowed, I kind of screamed a little. I was like, hey! I didn't scream in chat, but I screamed, in the metaphorical sense. I was like, whoa, we're doing this now. Listen, Sven gets the opportunity to prove to everybody why Darkrai should be banned, and he will most likely make it sure and done. This team is really, really, really offensive. Darkrai, Azumarill, and Arcanine Haxorus, great 4 Pokemon right there. Mudsdale, Copperajah, Rotom, they can each be offensive in their own right. But we're not even talking about the Terra Captains. Terra Sneasler with Flying and Ghost, that's crazy. Terra Meloetta with Fairy and Fighting, crazy as well. And as well, Lurantis could definitely be very, very good on this team. Now, as I've said before, and I'm gonna keep saying again, what's the one thing this team is missing? That's right, fans, removal. Oh, if there's a Pokemon on here that gets removal that I don't know about, then just sue me, or don't, please. I'm broke. Lurantis gets defog, I'm pretty sure, though. That's pretty cool if you ask me, but here's the thing. Lurantis being your defogger and then having no spinners is it's not that good. And everything else is pretty susceptible, so there's nothing really off the ground besides Rotom, which is definitely impactful on this team, I'm not going to lie to you. Because at least if you have a Levitator or a flying type, more matter of fact, you have a Pokemon that can at least switch in on earthquakes and stuff like that. But Sven doesn't have that. I think this team is really good, but it's more physically based, and it needs more, maybe another special attacker or two. Meloetta is great for what it's worth, but there's nothing else here. Needs some more hazard removal. All you have is Lurantis, and you're likely not bringing Lurantis every week, if I had to imagine. And that's really it for me, honestly, because there's it has no modes going on. It's just offense. There's not really defense. I guess you can consider Mudsdale and Copperajah defense if you will, but there's not really much else. outside of that, you got hazards and you just need removal and you need another special attacker. That's really it.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what Incog was saying, like there's a lot of offensive pieces for this. There's a couple mons that like kind of work defensively, but even those mons don't have recovery of their own. So any mon that's working here defensively, like really relies on having leftovers, and we only get one leftovers here, right? Because we're item clause. So I think the team is going to potentially struggle if Sven decides to take it, or needs to take it potentially on like a more defensive route for matchups. And I think that might be a bit of a difficulty. One thing I will say that I really love about this team that I didn't pick up on until we were looking at these teams at the end is that you have both Sneasler and Meloetta. So you've got Direclaw for sleeps, and you have Relic Song for sleeps to go along with Darkrai. And I think that that's like a really cool combo that we're able to find on this team. So I think it's awesome. I'm looking forward to see what Sven decides to do with it. What are your thoughts on this one, Miss Mag?
You know, that is exactly what I was just about to say. From a doubles perspective,
Yeah.
there is about a 20% chance that someone will roast crit against getting slept by Relic Song and having some bad dreams. I think that synergy is it's so fun. Like, I can't even necessarily say it's good because like it is still based in probability, but I just like the fact that that's something you have to kind of prep for to a degree. Like, and your Lumberries or Chester Berries are not going to be too much good if Sven decides to throw the Unnerved Haxorus in the mix. So have fun. But I will agree that for as very offensive, bulky offensive in a lot of ways as this team is, it could use just at least one solid dedicated support piece. The way it stands from a doubles perspective to me is that Darkrai might have to be like that support piece because of its speed tier, and I believe it has a somewhat decent supportive move pool. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but like you've definitely got your bulky, physically offensive mons in the Mudsdale, the Paparaja, the Azumarill, the Hisuian Arcanine. Like those are phenomenal, but you just need a little bit more balancing to not get too overwhelmed. Because I can see this team possibly struggling against teams that could just outbulk them and, survive the initial barrage and then kind of hit back.
Definitely. Let's go take a look at our next team here. We got the Rose City Rosalias. And I'm going to chat about this team to start off with here. This team has a ton of great options from like a singles perspective in terms of the amount of pivoting that's here. We've got some hazard being able to set up with like a ton of different Pokemon here. But I'm sure Incog will talk about removal, so I'll save that conversation for him. But yeah, I think the team has a mix of offensive, like physical offense, that has a mix of some special offense. It's got some good speed. It's got some pivoting. It's got wish. It's got a lot of stuff going for it. So I'm excited to see what CB Marcus is able to do with this team. One I'm very interested in is Clefairy, because in singles it tends to work more as like a hazard setter, like Thunder Wave, like a little disruptive. Definitely not an offensive piece in any way. However, when you bring it to doubles, it works more as like a follow me, protect kind of mon. And so I'm a little concerned if it's going to be too passive in the singles games and things are going to be able to set up all over it. We'll have to see how it goes. So that's a mon that I'm in particular kind of keeping my eye on to see how it does this season. But let's go, Miss Mag. What are your thoughts on this one?
My first thought is we see where the Lycanroc Dusk ended up. I was wondering which team actually had it from talking about it a few ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
From a doubles perspective, this team is, I would say it's interesting. Definitely a lot of very good special offense with the Sylveon, and even Tornadus is not terrible. And then some great physical juggernauts in the Scizor and the Urshifu single strike. And of course, Clefairy as a redirector supports the team nicely with the Friend Guard. I don't really see like too much of a theme here. Like there aren't like too many very obvious like double synergies to me personally, and I do think one of the downfalls of this team is... Oh, actually, no, I was going to say they don't have a ground type, but I do tend to forget about Healed Gastronaut over there in the corner. But other than that, like, Clefairy Green It's a pretty fun mode, I would say, as far as like double synergies go that I can easily see. But it seems like this team's general goal would be like have Clefairy redirect and sustain with Friend Guard and let the partner just like chip at you with like spread moves or like really powerful single target moves. And like that's fine. It's a tried and true basic double strategy, totally fine there. But I'd be curious to see like what other kind of like tech pieces this team is capable of. Like there's a lot of deep loopholes on this team.
Yeah, definitely. Incog, thoughts?
Well, Marcus. I would play the golf clap, but I've already done that joke twice. But you get it. Hey man, good offensive team here, man. I really do like it. I think you could use at least one more special attacker. I think Torn and Sylveon are great though, as the two of them are great. Electrode, great as well. Gastrodon's great. But like Gastrodon and Electrode are like, you know what? They're cool. We need another really solid one because you have three great solid physical attackers in Scizor and Lycanroc, Dusk, and Urshifu Single Strike. While Greedent and Medicham are good, you know, you have three really solid ones. And you have the Clefairy, which is cool. I don't understand the Clefairy being a Terra Captain. I'm going to say that loud and proud now. I still do not. However, fine, you know, you have two great Terra Captains. I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. I keep seeing Terra Dragon on random Pokemon, and Scizor, you're one of those too. And it's your only removal, fun fact. As Pat said, I was going to bring it up, and definitely am. Does this team need removal? I mean, technically, yes. T-Spikes ruin this team immensely, and while Rocks might look like they could, Tornadus is likely to be holding heavy-duty boots a lot of the time, and if it's not, Marcus will find a way to make sure that there are no hazards up. Either way, though, I think this team offensively is really good. Defensively, it has really good mons in the Clefairy, which can also wish, just like Sylveon. You have great defensive units in Greedent and the Gastrodon, and even Tornadus Therian and Scizor in some regards, and great, really good pivoting in the Scizor, the Tornadus, Baton Pass, Sylveon, the Urshifu, I believe it gets U-turn. You have Volt Switch, Electrode, Hisuian. Great team overall. Definitely a really high-end team, but again, a lot of teams are lacking that, not wow factor, but, you know, removal. You have hazards. Most people have hazards. That's really good. Most people will have ways that are physically and specially bound offensively, but most of you guys do not have removal. And that can definitely bite you in the behind if you're not careful.
All right, let's go and take a look at our next one here. Got the LA Lucarios. Miss Bag, what are your thoughts on this one?
I would say that off the rip, this is probably gotta be my most favorite like collection of mods that I would have never necessarily pictured together. For example, I haven't seen Mandibus literally since last gen. Hello, Mandibus. Very nice to see you again. Carried me through quite a few fun times in Gen 8. On this team, I can't say I understand its role at all, and that's probably one of the first things that jumps out to me because, yeah, I could say I could use it for Tailwind, that's fine, but then I ask myself what Articuno is doing there. I could say I use it as my Dark type, but then I say, like, what's Crocodile doing there? From a doubles perspective, this team kind of feels just a little bit all over the place. I think there are some very strong offensive pieces here, like the Quaquaval can get going pretty fast, the Iron Moth can get going pretty fast, Tinkaton hits pretty hard, if its base offensive stats are very low, and of course Dragon Ball can enable a lot of things to do a lot of crazy things based on its wide pool, supportive, visible, special, what have you. But it's kind of suffering from the not really seeing too much of a theme and a little bit of role overlap. I will say that I really like the Terra Captain choices. If there is a team I would say is most built for like Mesprit's specific stat line, I think this team definitely qualifies.
Incog, thoughts on this one?
Well. Hollow Kid, I think that's the coach's name. I wish I remember the coach's names. Some of you I didn't get to. Dunn, I can't pronounce your name correctly. You know who you are. And I'm not going to attempt it right now. But hey, really interesting team. Hey, look, guys, there's a Quaquaval, or whatever, however you pronounce it, however you fancy. It's here, and it has Guess what, everybody? That's right. Remove. Anyways, by the way, really nice team, really good team, really good offensive threats in the Quabble, Dragapult, Iron Moth, Crocodile, Ticketon on a good day, good defensive pieces in the Mesprit, the Mandibuzz, Belly Bolt at some times, and Articuno could definitely do something. And you know what we say in the industry, really, really good removal can always lead you to a championship. And I know some people are going to be like, see, in my championship run, I didn't ask. But here's the thing. I think the team is really good. It has good momentum going for it as well. Mesprit, Quaquaval, Mandibuzz, the Belly Bolt. I think Articuno gets U-turn. Dragapult definitely gets it. And yeah, everything can pivot around you and get into other threats or defensive pieces. And that really puts the glue together in a lot of teams. I'm not gonna lie to you though. I think this team is missing a type. I could be wrong. I think it's grass, which, I mean, in singles, grass isn't one of those things where you're like, oh my god, you're missing that type, therefore that's bad. Like, most people will miss a grass type here or there. But if you're looking at a team that is like not crazy weak to ground, but definitely would not like to be weak to it, this team is definitely one of them. While it has a Levitator and 2 flying types, both of those flying types do not want to take general coverage of rock coverage, and Mesprit is Mesprit, so you could deal with that yourself. So this team definitely has at least that glaring weakness to at least edge quake combos, which can definitely make or break the difference between a lot of teams. I think the Terra Captains are cool, though I'm not a big fan of having Terra Fairy on 2 Pokemon. I mean, it's fine for Quaquaval and fine for Mesprit, but maybe we keep it to 1. I don't understand a Terra Electric on Mesprit either. Maybe you don't want to get paralyzed. I understand that. I play with hacks all the time. The Dunsparce. Just regular Dunsparce is cool. Not really seeing its value on this team as much, but I mean, you have hazards, you have removal, you have great offensive and defensive pieces. Overall, a really good congealed team. Just needs to be worried every so often if you see really like fantastic edge quake threats.
Yeah, I think I was gonna jump in and kind of say that after Incog as well. Just having a grass type is often a way to like fight against edge quake, and so like Mesprit being that mon that can kind of do that is a little scary, and even then it doesn't resist rock. So like I think there's a concern from that side of things. I think it'd be worthwhile to find a spot for a grass type. I don't know exactly where you do that though. Like we do have double dark types, so maybe one of those can go, and we find a way to put a grass type on here to give the team that option. And then I also kind of want to echo the idea of Terra type diversity. There's been some other teams that have had similar Terra types as well, but that we haven't talked about it. But as a general sense, I think it's worthwhile to consider. So, but anyway, I think it's a cool team. Some of the defensive options have recovery, which is really nice. Some of the other teams haven't had that. There's some good pivoting on the team here as well, and a mix of different offensive options between physical, special. So I like the team overall. I think it could use a little bit of tweaks to take it to that next level, though. Next team here is Virginia Pressure. Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
Absolutely. Get it? Because that's his name. Anyways, I'm pretty sure this is absolute.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, man. How you doing? Sorry for the pun on your name. I'm sure you've heard that a million times, but you know what I haven't heard a million times? Removal being here. My fault. You know, I keep doing that. You know what I mean? Regardless, team looks pretty okay, actually. I think that, you know, I like having Kamo, Goldango, Ursaluna, Rotom, Umbreon, Rabambi. They're all great Pokemon in their own right. And if you were paying attention to the, I want to say PPL season, you definitely saw Joey bring Terra like Delphox towards the end of that season, and it's pretty cool. I don't know if grass was the option I'd be looking for, but it's cool. Fighting is also great on that. Leafeon's great. You already know. But Leafeon with no weather is an interesting thing to do there. We'll see what happens for Cotton this one. But hey, man, I think that this team looks good overall. It has good physical threats, good special threats. The issue would be you lack more removal, right? I'm going to keep bringing this up because it's very important in singles, and I can't go over it enough, right? Your spinner is Hisuian Avalon. If I wanted to play a sound, it would be like their do-do-do-do-do sound. You know where that's from. I bet you do. Listen, man, you're not bringing that Pokemon every week, and you're probably not bringing that Pokemon at least twice. and everything else is cool. I mean, I like having Umbreon as a Great Wish passer. I don't think Heal Bell's in this game. I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. No, it is not. Okay, because Umbreon doesn't have it on its move list. And if it is in this game, then you can tell me. But there's not a lot of things going on with this team. I mean, you have good Sticky Web and a great special attacker in Rabombi. You have great offensive weapons in Kamo, Rabombi, Goldango, Ursaluna, and Delphox at times, Rotom at times. But the thing about this team, it feels, I guess we used the term earlier on another team, it feels a tad bit incomplete. You're missing probably a crucial type that I can't even think of right now. I think if I'm looking around this correctly, maybe not, maybe. I guess really maybe a flying type in all honesty, which talks into the next point. Mold Breaker Pokemon that want to use Earthquake. Hey man, look at this team. It looks delicious, doesn't it? Edgequake, that is a weakness here too. It definitely is a weakness on several teams, and we didn't mention it earlier. But as you get more and more into this, you start really looking at the teams more analytically, I guess. But from a singles perspective, it's a good team. It's not great, it's good. I think it definitely use a transaction period as the grace period just to make some adjustments. Like Ursaluna looks kind of lost. It's just kind of there. It's a great bulky Pokemon, I guess, but just kind of there, which is cool because it's like everything on this team is not crazy threatening. Ursaluna just looks kind of just normal, but like it's kind of just there. Like this team feels not well put together, in my opinion.
I kind of have a different take on it. I kind of like the way it works together because I think that like the Como, Goldango, Ursaluna, I think make a really solid breaking partnership. You've got like setup on all those mons. You've got a really dedicated special attacker with Goldango, dedicated physical attacker with Ursaluna, and then some mixed offense with Como. And Como is kind of like a Swiss Army knife in terms of it can be setup, it can be defensive, it can be like immediate breaking power. So I think like I kind of like that side of the team. I think that it could put in quite a bit of work there. I will echo the idea that I'm not sure how I feel about the Leafeon. I kind of wish there was some weather here, and then I'd feel a little bit better about it. But I like the Rabombi pick. We've mentioned a couple of those mons, Como, Goldango, Ursaluna. Would love to have webs to be able to outspeed some stuff. So I like that Rabombi is a really nice pickup for the team. And then there's some good defensive options here too, which I think will be great. What are your thoughts on this one, Miss Mag?
Well, I mean, if Incog can make a bad joke, I guess I can too. I'm going to put a little pressure on this guy because I actually thought I would hate this team when I looked at it. But then I looked at it a little bit more carefully. I actually really like it. There's like 3 mods of this team that could easily just disappear and be replaced with some different choices, and I think this would be a better contender. I bet you can probably guess what 3 of those mods are. Well, we've talked about Leafeon. Yeah, I think Leafeon is bad. Even with weather, I don't think Leafeon is very good. Sorry, not sorry. It's, in my opinion, the worst of the evolutions. Should really only be taken under desperate circumstances, but there's like 1,000,001 grass types in Scarlet and Violet. I would just pick a different one. The second one is, I'm not super high on Hisui and Avalugg. I'm gonna be real honest. I prefer the original Avalugg, but that might just be like coach preference. The third one might surprise you. I don't love Weezing on this team because almost every mod on this team actually has a relevant ability, so you're not really getting too much out of like neutralizing gas. And if you're literally just using it for levitate, like you have Rotom, in my opinion. But I will definitely agree that my favorite parts of this team are the Komodo, the Goldango, the Ursaluna, the Rotom Wash, and the Rabombi could probably easily come like every week. They are just such a nice pairing all together. But yeah, that's my pressurized thought process.
All right, let's go and take a look at our next team here, and we have the New York Yanmegas. And I'm a fan of the team overall. I think that it's a nice option to have some setup threats here, with the Torterra being able to get Shell Smash this gen, which makes it very exciting. Annihilate is a really nice setup option as well. And then we have some really nice like immediate offensive threats between the Thundurus, the Monkey Dory. We have the Hisuian Samurott, I think is a really nice option here as well. We mentioned it earlier with Cleaver being able to set up hazards, but just being able to set up hazards on an attacking move and not use that just on like a status move that all it does is get up the hazards, I think is nice. So being able to just like continuously output some damage and put pressure on your opponents is a really nice option here. Hisui and Samurott also got flip turn for the DLC, so it makes it a nice pivot as well if you ever want to switch that out. So I think the team is pretty cool. I'm not super high on the bottom 3 mons, the Diplin. I don't know if that's Volbeat or Illumise. I always get them mixed up. And then the Kamala. But I'm sure Incog likes Kamala. I'm sure he'll talk more about that. And speaking of, Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
My brother, Ted. Ted, how you doing, man? You already know how we get down. I'm not going to play this song. Hey, man. Man, there's a lot of feelings about this team I have. And Ted, you know, you be making do with a lot of things, man. This team in particular, Terra Torterra, I get that it got shell smashed. Everybody's very high on Torterra right now. I get it. I'm gonna wait 2 months and I'll see you guys later. Because Torterra's cool. Torterra's great. You know, he does what he has to do, but Torterra's and he's still like, you have to save your Terra for that. And that's the problem with it. It's either you save it or Torterra will take a lot of damage. And let me just tell you, Enamorous is a lot better as a Terra captain, and I would even argue Carving's a little bit better. Just a tiny bit. Not as good, obviously. Carving's still. From a singles perspective, I think that this team has, you know, hazards. It has, you know, spinning. Obviously, you guys know how I feel about that. Has good offensive pressure. I think Monkey Dory, as one of the newest Pokemon here, is definitely going to make a big difference. Annihilate, you can never go wrong with that. Seeing Samurai getting up spikes automatically. Cease's Edge is really good. Thunderous, what can I say except for Volt Switch, and it's a great special attacker. Volbeat is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. If you don't know that, now you do. Great Pokemon, even if it's not going to be brought majorly to single games. It's still good. I think Tail Glow is great. Obviously, we're not allowing baton passing, you know, stats like that, but still a cool Pokemon overall. Kamala. If you don't know, I keep drafting Kamala with my spin, so this is a very good tribute here. Kamala's great. But I will say, on the off chance that you really wanted like a better team, I maybe would switch out Diplin and maybe even your Terra Captain on Torterra. I feel like there's probably other better Pokemon to have there, and Diplin's cool, but it's not good. You know what I mean? Like it's cool, but it's alleged. You know, it could evolve. Maybe in the next DLC. We don't know. No confirmation there. So it's just kind of here. It's a little NFE Pokemon. It's cool, I guess. I don't know. I think that this team's definitely not bad, not good, average at best.
Okay. Miss Mac?
Can you teach me how to do the golf clap?
I just have it on my soundboard, but I can play it for it if you'd like.
I like the golf clap here. I think so. Like I've known Ted for a little bit, and I've seen a lot of his teams. I'm actually fairly high on this team comp. I will agree with Matt though. The bottom row has me a little less convinced. But let's start with the good stuff. The Monkey Dory and that whole middle row actually, the Monkey Dory, the Annihilate, the Suin Sarah, and the Thunderous Theorate are just all very strong offensive options. Both on the physical and special ends. Monkey Dory also coming with, I believe, its other ability is Frisk, the one that's not Toxic Chain. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Fake Out, Frisk, just solid stuff, kind of across the board. I really appreciate like what those 4 mods can do. They have some flexible, in my opinion, move sets. Aside from Monkey Dory just having a wee bit of problem in the coverage department, and especially since it can't Terra. Like, it has a lot of trouble hitting specifically Dark and Steel type mons, but, you know, you have a whole team to deal with that. Let's go to the Terra Captains. I'm still not the biggest proponent or hype man for Enamorous Incarnate. I still think it is borderline terrible. But he picked some good Terra types for it. Steel is just a great Terra typing in the general sense defensively, and the ground Terra type I'm sure will benefit some of those earth power damages that he might carry on it every week. Gonna agree with Incog. I'm gonna wait till the jury is out on Torterra. We'll see how good it is, but you know, a lot of mods got a lot of improvement with being able to use Terra when they have 4 times weaknesses, and same kind of goes with the Carbink. I do love the Carbink. I think it is a nice flex piece for this team. Trick Room, Iron Defense, Body Press, dual screens, what have you. And then Volbeat in the bottom row just offering some speed control and some other just utility. And Kamala's just cute. We love Kamala. And we love Diplin too. So yeah, I think this is a pretty solid team set. Well done.
Looking at the next one here, we have the Tentacle Pirates. Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yo, it's DJS. This is a strong competitor right here. Here, boy, I tell you what, this is a good team too. But again, we have to talk about Terras, don't we? Yeah, we do, everybody. I'm sorry. Rabska? All right, listen, I'm just telling you right now, Rabska's cool. I like the Pokemon overall. I don't like that it's a Terra Captain. But hey, if it works for DJS, you know what I say. Champions know better than the contenders. And let me tell you something. DJS has won some stuff, man. They know better than I do. Rotom, Mo, and Gyarados are great Terra Captains as well. I think that Steel's really interesting with the levitating Pokemon, so you're only really weak to fighting and fire. And then you have a really good team to support your weaknesses, of course. Gyarados with flying and ground is good. Now let's talk about the overall team. Spectre Jirachi. Why? How did he get these? I don't know. Pheasantipity is going to be an interesting one. I think in singles it's less good than it is in doubles, but we'll get into that later. It's cool, has good utility, I guess, but Cinderace, Noivern, great pivot, great momentum Pokemon. Get U-turn each of them, and they're both really good in their own regards, whether especially or physically is up to you. Mabostiff's okay, and Paloswine is cool, I guess. And you know me, man. We got to spin the wheel. Psych, we don't. Where's the removal? There it is. As you already know where it is. It's Noivern. Look at that. We have removal. But really, we have court change Cinderace, which could definitely turn the tide on some singles battles. Definitely, if you feel like your team is not going to be beneficial by having Noivern, having court change will definitely turn the tide in some regards. You know, shifting T-Spike, shifting anything else would be really good, especially if you're trying to have an endgame with Spectre or Jirachi. That being said, however, this team is good, maybe great at times. But I feel like we definitely need to see maybe a different Terra Captain as, you know, not Rabska. I mean, it's good. It's not great. It's just okay. You know what I mean? But Mabostiff is definitely an interesting Pokemon to have as your Dark type. So maybe you're looking for another Pokemon might be better. Overall, this team is really good. But it definitely suffers in the department of there are definitely some middling pieces. Has the Hazard. And notice I said Hazard because I'm pretty sure all we have is Roxanne Piloswine. Unless Jirachi probably maintained them, I imagine. Let me just check that real quick. Don't mind me. I'm just typing. Yeah, it did. So I mean, you got some rocks. You maybe have some spikes. Overall, I mean, team's good. It's definitely middle high, but like, you know, that's just how it is with some draft format. But definitely interesting mons.
For sure. I think one of the ones that I'm interested in is the Pheasantipity, and I think that Spectre is a really nice partner with it. Pretty much any of these new mons that have this Toxic Chain ability, I think are really nice to have with a Hex Pokemon. So having Spectre there, I think is going to be a really nice option to go along with that Pheasantipity. Overall, I think the team is pretty cool. We have some mons that have some good recovery, so there's some good defensive pieces, there's some good offensive pieces, there's some good pivots. So I think it's got a lot of like what you look for in a team. As well as having those having hazard removal. I know we all know Incog's very happy about that one, and yeah, I think that it's nice to have those things on this team, and it's good to have the pivoting, like all the stuff that Incog was talking about is going to be great for even for the doubles matches as well. Which, speaking of doubles matches, how do you feel about this one, Miss Mag?
Cool, this is a cool doubles team. I can say that with a lot of surety. I am very excited to see Spectre and Pheasantipity, as was just mentioned, kind of put in some work. I am also excited to see Cinderace, Gyarados, and Rotom Moch. I think it's another solid Fireward and Grass Spore, which is capable of so much of that great pivoting we just described with U-turn and Volt Switch, kind of popping in and out. You have the Toxic Chain supporting with some extra trip with these very fast physical attackers. You get like a little Dazzling Gleam in there, you toxic them, and then you can just finish them off with like a quick priority move like an Ice Shard or a Sucker Punch, or just a quick like Pyro Ball or something. And I think that will be the hardest part to maintain versus this team, is like having to deal with added chip out of nowhere. That being said, I would say the one critique I have for the doubles perspective, there's a little bit of role overlap. Now you can argue that like Pheasantipity and Noivern don't necessarily both have to set Tailwind, or like that kind of stuff. But I feel like he might have a little bit of trouble. Like there are some weeks where I might find trouble justifying bringing like Pheasantipity and Noivern. Like if I really want to run fast mode, like do I really want to waste a move slot on the Tailwind for the Pheasantipity, or do I want to bring the utility of like the Noivern with the Frisk and the hard hitting Dracos, like kind of like those kind of choices. But those will all be coach dependent and matchup dependent. So I think it's a really solid team though.
Definitely taking a look at the next one here. We have the Reigning Roselias. And this is definitely one of those weather teams that we were talking about earlier. This one's going for the rain rather than, I think we've seen a sun team as well and another rain team. So definitely another weather team coming into the mix here. And I think that the overall like weather part of the team is kind of nice. The part I'm a little concerned about is that there is no ground type. And especially if we're going for a rain team, then it would be nice to have a mon that is immune to electric, so you can switch in on those electric type attacks, of which there are several weaknesses on the team. So that's one thing that I'm a little concerned about. I think a spot thrower is going to be awesome for this team. Like you can use the rain mode to break, and then a spot thrower can clean things up once they get chipped down just a little bit. It doesn't even need that much, because once you're able to stored power, you're gonna take out a ton of Pokemon here. After potentially a Calm Mind and some speed boosting, as well as just being able to Terra, being able to go fighting or Fairy is really nice to be able to hit those steals, really nice to be able to hit those darks, and so I think that like that mon is going to be a threat for sure, and teams are going to have a way of dealing with it. I don't particularly like that we have double Prankster. I just don't think it's necessary. Sableye could probably be something else. Maybe there's that dark type, or not the dark type, the ground type that the team is missing. Overall, definitely some solid offensive pieces, and we'll see how Hinotori is able to make this team work. But Miss Mag, what are your thoughts on this team from a doubles perspective?
From a doubles perspective, let's put it this way. Reigning Roselias, you need to pick a weather mode, and you need to pick it quite fast, because as frightening as I look at this team and I'm just like, yes, with no ground Pokemon, and with really only one grass type and a grass type Terra, sorry, Electric's still pretty free into this team. And those two Prankster mons are not going to dissuade me from doing that. My biggest thing is like the rain mode is the one big thing I see about this team, but there's just not enough to go with it to make it anything other than just kind of a mode. At the same time, there is like a half a sun mode there with the Tornadus and the Typhlosion with Eruption spam, but then why do we also need the Houndoom? Like there's just a little too much duplicitous typing for my personal liking. Now I will say that you can easily keep some of those, like the Typhlosion and the Decidueye actually have perfectly fine placements, even if you want to keep the rain mode, but then I would drop the Houndoom. I would drop the Sableye and kind of work on shoring up your type chorus like that. The other thing I will say about this team is it only really knows how to go fast. It does not have a slow mode in the slightest, unless you put an Iron Ball on something. And its only Trick Room center happens to be a Spathra, and a Spathra has base 105 speed. It don't really like setting Trick Room all that often, to be honest. So yeah, those are my critiques from a doubles perspective. Team has a lot of offensive options, but I don't think it'll get into position to use those options very well if opposing teams can survive the initial assault.
Thoughts on the team, Incog?
Well. It's about that time we talk about a team that looks good on paper, but in practice, what will it do? I think that I really like the Espathra, Terra Captain, and the Decidueye, and even the Houndoom feels cool, man. Maybe not the greatest on typings, in my opinion. I mean, Decidueye is only weak to too many typings, and now he just reduces that to just a few typings, which is cool, with its Terra, but, we'll talk about that in a bit. I think that this team is good. I think that rain is always going to be nice, and I think, like, having Tornadus and having Typhlosion so you can set up the sun is great, but this team, as Ms. Mag said, needs to pick a weather, and I'll even say pick a weather and pray, because this team wants to do so many things at once, but it doesn't really have a way of doing all of them at once, of course, right? And the other unfortunate part about this team is that, you know, Espather is cool, but if someone can beat Espather, I mean, you have to set up the rain, or you have to make sure that Typhlosion gets in a nice way, or Tornadus has to be able to set up in order to really do a lot of damage, in my own opinion. And then, like, you know, even if I don't like Sableye. Even as I don't like Sableye, what is its role on this team from a singles perspective? It's really a doubles Pokemon at the end of the day, and even then, give Tornadus. Like, give a better Pokemon for the exact role it wants to do, I guess, in that regard. It's a good team. I think it has a lot of heavy hitters, and definitely wants to pick a weather instead of having two at once. I feel like you get kind of into the draft and you want to do so many things, but you don't know if it's possible in a way. Ariados is there. It's cool, I guess. And you know me, man. I gotta bring up the biggest elephant in the room, even though there isn't one. Removal. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Where's the removal at? That's right. Decidueye gets default somehow, but Pelipper doesn't. Let that sink in. Not literally, figuratively. Tornadus doesn't get it, unfortunately. So all you got is a Decidueye. What are you gonna do? What are you going to do? That is the question of the hour. Your poison type is an Ariados, so you can't really absorb toxic spikes. You have to avoid rocks, and you only get one pair of boots. You have to use the Decidueye basically to defog if you want to get rid of anything. How are you going to do it when that Pokemon is not really that great in a lot of regards being grass fighting, unless you're prioritizing using Terra on it, where you would like to do that with Espather? A lot of things go into this team being just okay, but believe me, it could be better, it could be worse, but I feel like the free agency period will help you.
Taking a look at our next team here, Miss Bag, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yes. Chesney Park Slowpoke. I gotta say, this team is honestly quite terrifying in certain ways. So I'm gonna start off with the good parts. This team having Talonflame plus some of those very fearsome physical hitters like the low kicks, which has newly been blessed with knockoff, I believe. With the Dragonite and with the Mimikyu, that's just a lot of offense stuff to prep for. And if you can't kind of get around that, like, this team's just gonna start just blowing holes in things. So that's part of the good part on the offense side. On the defensive side, you've got the nice Milotic, which is nice bulky water. You even got Glamora, which I feel like more people use especially, but I think Glamora can easily be a bit of a assault vest candidate for some of the more common weakness points on this team. So I like that pairing. And I also like the little Charger Bug. I'm actually really curious to see what it can do. Now, for the one thing I would say that I'm not super high on, sorry, Adam, I am not high on Morpeko at all. I think it's a good Pokemon. I think it is not super great for this team as, like, your, I guess, well, I don't know what Charger was movable is like, I'll be completely honest off the top of my head, but I don't think it's, like, the greatest idea to have on this team. But I'll be very interested to see what it can do. And the other thing is, I'm not super convinced on the Hisuian Lilligant without any Sun synergy. Just because it's then kind of forced to run Hustle and Wide Lens, which I guess is like alright, but I guess technically Talonflame is a fairly fast Sunny Day user, so like that's not exactly out of the question, but I think it's a pretty solid team.
Thoughts, Incock?
Well, you know, it's a team. I think that there's a lot of great offensive pieces, and one notable defensive piece is the Milotic, which is great. Hey, Adam. Hey, man. Why didn't you go with Terra Dragonite? Was it not allowed? And if it was allowed, why didn't you do it? Now, listen, man. I like this team overall. I think, as well as what Ms. Mag said, you know, where's the sun for the Lilligant? Low kicks is great offensively, and I mean, Dom Mephisto just used it in PPL with Terra, and it is very, very scary. So I expect it to be very, very scary here. However, this team has the problem of it has a lot of offense. Where's the defense? You have a lot of beef, but you know what? you got to make sure you cook that beef correctly. And this team looks like it's going to be overcooked because having unstoppable offense is cute on paper, but in singles, what happens a lot of the time is that defensively, or at least defensive mons will easily be able to pick up on what you're putting down, and that can become a very big issue when it comes to this kind of formatting. But especially in singles. Now, does that mean he's going to dominate on the single side? Absolutely, positively, maybe. I can't say for sure because I can't speak in facts. I only speak as a printer. Get it? Regardless, though, you have hazards. Removal, I think more people gets rapid spin, and I think mortal spin gets rid of hazards on Glamora. And Talonflame, I don't think it maintained. No, it did maintain defuck. How nice. So you have the hazards down and the hazard removal. Morpeko as a Terra Captain is interesting. We'll have to see if that plays out for you. Lilligant and Low Kicks are great Terra Captains. A really good Pokemon indeed just by themselves. Overall, really great offensive team. Really good, dangerous team. You have Sticky Web on Charjabug, I guess, which, I mean, I'm very high on Charjabug. I think it still maintains Sticky Web, and if it didn't, I mean, that's bad for him, I guess. Checking, it did maintain it. Awesome. But, you know, good team overall. I just think you definitely need some defensive pieces in order to really tie this entire team back together. I mean, Milo's great. Where's the rest?
For sure. I think adding on to that is that defensively, we talked about the last team didn't have a ground type. This team also does not have a ground type. So electric moves are going to be pretty solid here, especially when we have multiple Pokemon that are weak to electric and multiple flying types. Like, I think the resist on the team to electric is, we're going to say it's Hisuian, Lilligant, Morpeko, and Charjabug. Those are not the greatest of resist to electric. So I think that the team is going to have a little bit of trouble with like fast volt switching mons and might have some difficulty trying to handle those. Yeah, aside from that, like Adam, the Majestic Park Slowpokes coach, is a very offensive player, and so I imagine this team fits his style very well, but in a general sense, it's going to have some hard time against some of those mons that are able to wall it, and it might have some difficulty there. Taking a look at our next team, we have the Rustboro City Rejects, and Incog, what are your thoughts on this one?
Don't do that. Gosh darn it. Hey, Arts, how you doing? Very high on this team. It's a very good team, actually. Here's the thing, though, right? You have a great sun mode. Indeed, you do. And I really do like it. I mean, Walking Wake, Torkoal, Lilligant, Typhlosion, Sandy. Like, this team has one mode, and that's Sun, and then it goes crazy with it, which is very impressive. And in case you don't know, he has one of the best Pokemon Draft League history, Snorlax. That's right, baby. I'm going to push that propaganda today. Y'all don't know, that's my actual favorite normal type. And probably a really great Pokemon overall if you're using it correctly. Arch is a really good player that definitely has a really great team. He has good hazard removal. In Torkoal, obviously, it's one of the better ones. And that's really it. I mean, he doesn't really have much else. And he definitely would like some. I mean, Typhlosion, Torkoal, aforementioned, if it's not running boots. And other mons definitely would like to avoid T-Spikes as well as just rocks in general. But we're all missing the important piece in this team. That's that Mamoswine. Offensively, it's great. Defensively, can definitely be good. I think that Arch's playstyle definitely leans itself more towards catching his opponent off guard with offensive weaponry and then going crazy from there. Now, of course, that does also mean that he has to also be careful of other offensive pieces. It's going to be very interesting to see how he can get revenge kills or avoid getting revenge killed, because that seems like the nature of this team. I like Wish Dotspun, but it's just okay at best. In addition, you know, that Edgequake thing we were talking about? Yeah, it's here again. This team definitely needed probably a dark Pokemon. Now, it has, I guess, Morgrim, but, like, I don't really care for Morgrim. You need a better dark type, man. Otherwise, overall, a steel type might help a lot, just in general, but since you're running Sun, maybe not, but I mean, also still low-key a little bit. Terra Captains are great. Regular Lilligant is okay. I wish you had a Hisuian Lilligant, but beggars can't be choosers, you know? So overall, great team.
Spec, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to echo the highness for this team. I think I figured out how to do this one thing. Let me try it. There we go. I feel great now. Yeah, this is definitely probably the most cracked out Sun team I've ever seen. Just with those first 5 alone. And the one thing I would say that makes this team different than the other Sun team that we saw earlier in this video is it's really not just Sun. Like, I can see a case where another weather can go up and this team can still function fine. Probably doesn't really want Rain to go up, but that's just the nature of like Sun teams in general. But then you put Rain versus Walking Wake, and Walking Wake's not terribly inhibited by that, you know what I mean? And some nice other combos. I really like the little cheap Disquake mode with the Rotom Fan and the Mammo Swine. And I just really like Morgan kind of just tying the whole team together with just like support in terms of fake out, dual screens, all that kind of stuff. And yes, I do like Snorlax. I would say like the one thing, I think the only thing this team does not actually have is this Trick Room setter. I'm pretty positive no mod on this team gets Trick Room, which would just honestly add to the level of modality this team is capable of. But outside of that, solid team, all through and through for doubles.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this team has a lot of solid pieces. We mentioned earlier, I think actually Miss Mag touched on this idea about the, like, if Sun isn't up, how is the team going to operate? And I think this team is totally fine if there's no Sun. Sun feels like a boost to it, even though it doesn't really need it for these Pokemon to be strong. There are plenty of times where Sandy Shocks is on a team that doesn't have Sun. Typhlosion can be on teams without Sun. Lilligant's usually on teams with Sun, and same with Walking Wake. But even then, like, those mons are totally fine on their own. And Walking Wake being able to get flip turned now gives this team a lot more momentum. So if you have any of those walls that Walking Wake can't really deal with, like, you just flip turn out of there and then you go into something else that's able to handle them. So I like the options that this team has. I think it has a lot of powerful pieces. So anyway, let's go and take a look at, and this one's actually our last team. Very exciting. However, to the Flanders Flagons here. And Miss Mag, what are your thoughts on this one?
Great. I'm gonna show a little bit of my bias here. I am a huge Alola Tales fan. I love Alola Tales. I think it's honestly probably my favorite regional variant, and that's saying a lot. That being said, I think Alola Tales plus Baxcalibur, given the new additions to the DLC move pool with Baxcalibur getting something called Scale and Shot, yeah, that's a little impressive. Bax behind Aurora Veil, very fast Aurora Veil, can be very impressive. So that's cool. I think he also rounded out the team fairly nicely. I'm a big Mian Shao fan as well. I think it was a great fighting type. It hits hard, but it also has very solid pivoting potential. Iron Jugulis kind of offering some very fast Tailwind options, support with like Snarl, and I don't actually think he gets Breaking Swipe, but you know, those kind of things as well. Not super high on Inteleon. I actually would kind of prefer if that was maybe like a little bit more of a bulkier water, but like when you have Aurora Veil, like even Inteleon behind Aurora Veil is pretty, like, that's pretty gnarly. So I like this team a lot actually. The one thing I might consider changing is probably maybe just that Inteleon slot for like a slightly or bulky water. And they drafted Ice Cube. Ice Cube's cute. And definitely could do a lot of work with Alola Tales providing hail. No support. We don't call it hail anymore.
Incog, thoughts on the team?
Well. The Flanders Flagons, I forgot the coach. Ronin Sting, yep. That's his name. There it is, Avery. Hey, man. Nice team you got there. You got the most recent, well, not the most recent, the second most recent banned Pokemon, Baxcalibur, with that snow thing. You doing something there. You got that Heatran and the Inteleon and the Espeon and the Iron Leaves and the Mienshao, and then this team is good. But the interesting part about this team that I think will definitely maybe be not as good is the fact that, like, I like the Terra Captains to start off with. I think Iron Leaves is great as a Terra Captain. I would maybe prefer Fairy on it as a Terra type, maybe, but beggars can't be choosers. I like Mienshao's. Not a big, I guess Poison's great for like Fairies, but you have a Heatran, I guess. So I mean, like, I don't really see the reasoning behind it after that portion. Ice Cube's cool. That's all you're getting out of me. Baxcalibur, Heatran, Ninetales is a great 3-man core. I mean, You have a great defensive unit in Heatran, or even a better offensive unit if it wants to be. You have the ability to put up Veil and also be offensive with the Ninetales, and getting that defense boost definitely makes it a lot better. Baxcalibur with Ninetales, if you don't know, I'm gonna let you know, it didn't take very long for that Baxcalibur to get banned because it got scale shot and now has a faster Snow Setter. By the way, crazy. Iron Jegulus, I've never been high on Iron Jegulus, and I don't think I ever will be. It's cool, I guess, but on this team, it's just kind of average. Inteleon and Espeon are great special attackers, and, you know, that's enough for a lot of people. And I think you're all starting to wonder, Avery, there's not a bigger physical Pokemon besides Baxcalibur and Mienshao. Why haven't you mentioned that yet? Here's the thing. There's a whole Psy-blading, guy right there. Its name is Iron Leaves. I like Iron Leaves, but the crazy thing about Iron Leaves is, like, it's just okay to me. Like, a lot of this team is like, yeah, this is really good stuff, and then it's like, it might not work out depending on how you go about it. Edgequake can definitely be a weakness, but with the ability to have the Snow defense boost as well as having Aurora Veil, maybe it's not as big of a weakness, but it's definitely still a weakness nonetheless. I think that this team also lacks a, what's the Pokemon? I think like a bulky water, as Miss Mag said. Like, Italian's cool, but like a bulky water would tie this team together real gosh darn nicely. Overall, really nice team. I did not talk about Pikachu. You're not wrong. I'm not going to. It's overall really nice. I think that a bulky water would tie nicely together. Again and again and again, there are no hazard removers. I'm tired. I guess there is, like, technically you can reflect with a magic bounce Espeon, whatever, dude. You have your hazards though in rocks, and I think that's really it. That's cool, but not a whole lot else. It's good team, like, great on paper, but if you're fighting it, it might seem simpler than you might imagine.
Yeah, I think looking at this team, like, Break is just going to be brought against this team so often, and you have ice types that are weak to it, so, like, it's going to put in a lot of damage from that side of things. So, like, my concern is that, like, is Veil really going to be up all the time? I think that makes it a little more difficult for how this team is going to operate. That, and it, like, also really needs snow. It really needs snow, and if your Snow Setter is weak to hazards and you're trying to run boots on something else that week, then I think it's just going to get chipped down over time, and the team might struggle a little bit from that side of things. This is another team that decided that they don't like ground types. Like, they're just like, I'm not going to bother crafting one. So we have a couple of teams that have decided that they don't care about having the different types that are available in the game, seeing as they have multiple ice types, multiple psychic types. So it's a little bit difficult, I think, to try to build teams as this, just because you tend to be locked into specific mons that you got to bring every week, because like, your team doesn't function otherwise, and so it makes prepping against it a little bit easier. And speaking of this last team here, we are now going to be able to go and take a look at our power rankings. Just keep in mind is that we're going to be looking at kind of 3 sets of power rankings here. Incog has talked about teams and shown his from singles perspective. Miss Mag's looked at it from doubles, and I've tried to combine a little bit of the two. So I'm going to go and show them. They actually don't know what each other chose, and they don't know what I chose either. So this is going to be really interesting to see their first takes. And after I change the screen, we're just going to let them go with it. Like, let's see what they think.
What? Hey, man. No, hold on.
We found some agreement. We found some agreement.
This is singles, obviously.
Yep.
Okay. Now hold on there, bitch. Wait a damn minute. I know Pats are at the top. Okay. I get that. Man, this man. Really? You're that high on Pat's team? Really? I don't
Yeah. Sorry to tell you.
I'm just saying it now, because Pat may not put the DM on the screen. But I'm telling you right now, there was going to be 2 teams there at my last slot. I'm sorry, Marcus. I'm sorry. But I had to pick Arts. I flipped a coin. And like I said, man, Bread, he might be missing a Pokemon, but he'll get it together. And then, you know, Sosa's great, man. You have Sandy at 1?
I had, so this isn't in order. This is just a top 3 in general.
No, because then who's your number 1 then, huh?
I don't know. I didn't go that deep to like order the top 3.
I ordered mine,
Neither-
by the way,
neither-
folks.
I did not order mine at all.
Mine is ordered.
Was that the? I don't even know if I put in the order you told me.
You
That's
did.
right. I totally did. You really put the team that is missing a Pokemon at the best singles team in this
It's
entire
not
draft.
going to
Get
matter, and
out
you
of
know
here.
that. You
Get
know
out of
that.
here.
Give Brett a bulky water and it's over.
The
It's
man,
a wrap.
the man had a bulky water, homie.
Give him another bulky Pokemon and it's wraps.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that
team
at
is
all.
hard. There's not a lot of teams beating that team right now, man.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
couldn't in good conscience put a team that had an incomplete draft on my tier on my
Both of you
top
are the
3.
same, I swear to God.
What?
Not listening here, basically interrogating me about that. Oh my God.
I mean, Pat Mack can vouch for me. I said that Red was an honorary mention for my top 3, depending on what that last spot is. But like when it's doubles, like you need to come with a full gauntlet of things. Like he could pick, I don't know, put a Magikarp there, and that immediately takes him into like bottom 3. I don't care how good the rest of the team is. But that's a very
That's how I
extreme
feel
example.
too. So one thing that's
You
kind
know
of
what I
interesting
mean?
to point out here is that the Rustboro City rejects and made it onto all of our lists here
Yo, let's go, Arts.
for
Arch,
good
you better
reason.
not fail me.
Dude put together a really solid Sun team. I'm a big
You better
fan.
not fail me, bro. If you fail me, I'm gonna cry.
We don't want to see Incog
He
cry.
will though. We
will.
don't.
All right. Here it comes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that Incog picked the Infernape as part of his top 3. I agree. With my limited knowledge of singles, I actually think it's a pretty solid singles team, and it's actually not terrible for doubles. If this was like more of like a top 5, I definitely would have put it in a top 5. But I just felt like the top 3 doubles teams just offered a balance of like modality, and the mons can still do plenty of other things. Like flexibility is so important when you're fielding 2 Pokemon at a time, that even if your strategies are like very obvious, if they're too one-dimensional, I don't think that makes you have a strong doubles draft. And that's always been my philosophy. I like having a lot of options at my disposal, no matter how crazy they might be.
For sure. I think it's also really interesting that aside from us all agreeing on arts, like we had different teams for our other top 3, and so I think that's going to be I mean it just goes to show that like power rankings are very subjective, you know, like it's based on our experiences of Pokemon, and of course now we have a ton of Pokemon that are new, you know, and like being able to try to decide like which ones are really the top tier mons, and how they're going to function, especially in a league as unique as this one is. It's not easy, man. It is not easy to draft a team or to play the game. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a very exciting league. And of course, if you are interested in following along with how it's going, you can check the description out for the video, and we'll have a link for the TGR Discord server, and you can just come in, check out the TGR content channel. And we have several coaches here that that create content, and so you'll for sure be able to see some games recorded and see how your favorite team does. You know, it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch this one, and of course to play in it as well. I think it's gonna be really exciting. So, hey, you guys have anything you want to say before we all hop off here?
Where's the doubles ones?
Which ones are the doubles? Top 3?
Top 3 doubles, yeah.
Yeah, that was from Miss Mag. So he's got the Midland
You
Marowak.
only
Middle
wanted me
row.
for singles? Oh, damn. I gave you for doubles as well. Damn.
Yeah, I just put the singles one up here.
That's fine. Okay. Well.
Wait, can we talk about which 3 you had for doubles? Because I'm kind of curious.
No, actually, we're not going to.
We don't want to?
It doesn't exist.
Oh man.
We'll do it off camera. That's okay.
There you go.
All right, here we go. All right, anything else you guys want to add before we hop off?
I mean, just good luck and have fun as the TGR away. It's going to be a great season. I look forward to all the content, really. Not much else to say.
For sure. And with that, we'll go and sign off. Appreciate you all sticking around. And like I said, if you want to see any of the games, definitely hop over to the TGR Discord. We'll catch you all later. Bye.